Hey, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. If you need a roof, make sure you call Ireland Contracting, 1-800-NEW-ROOF. Give us a call right now. A couple lines open on the Borders and Borders hotline. 412-575-2600 is the number. We're going to continue the Pitt basketball conversation right now before we get into the Penguins and their situation. Paul, you're the expert here with Pitt basketball. And my question is, and here's the way I would look at it. Wouldn't you just, if you're Pitt, wouldn't you just gamble on maybe an assistant or a guy you think might be good instead of going with someone that's like a Mark Schmidt? That's kind of where I am with it. I mean, at least if you went with, I'm not saying Brandon Knight here, but an assistant somewhere that no one knows about that eventually is on the right track to being a good head coach somewhere.
I would say this, and I actually posted the profile, I forget what the guy's name is, the profile of the guy from Baylor, who's their associate head coach, okay? Now, I'm not saying him.
Oh, Jerome Jerome Tang or something?
Yeah, Tang, yeah, Jerome Tang. I'm not saying him, okay? But here's the thing. He's like 51 years old.
Good recruiter.
So he's not a young guy.
Yeah.
But he's not an old guy. He's been an associate head coach, or he's been an assistant coach in a Power 5 school for 13, 14 seasons. He's at a Power 5 school that's actually successful. He's recruited, I think, 9 NBA guys to Baylor.
Yeah.
Okay? He's the kind of guy that you say, okay, if we can't find one of these head coaches, here's a guy that's experienced, he's mature, he's got a track record of being able to recruit at this level, which is the level we need a guy to be able to recruit. He can hire somebody to do his X's and O's.
Well, exactly.
You know what I mean? He can go hire, you know what I mean? So to me, of course people jumped on me. Oh, yeah, he's in Texas. He has no ties to the Southeast. It's like, listen, all I'm saying is if you can't get one of the head coaches that you're looking for, this is the exact profile of a coach you should be looking at. To me, I like that more than Odom from UMBC. Yeah. Even probably in some ways, I would like that guy more than a guy like Oates, because he's more experienced in a lot of different ways than a guy like Oates. Now, obviously, Oates is a head coach, so that's, but these like one-hit wonders from the NCAA, from the mid-majors, I think it's good, but it's a crapshoot. I think, to me, you're much better off, if you're going to go that route, at least exploring a couple of these top assistants at good programs in major conference programs, not 35-year-old kids, but, 44, 45-year-old guys who maybe have been an assistant for, 10, 12 years. They've recruited well and, that kind of thing. That's the kind of guy you might have to look at, and that might not be the worst thing, because like I said to somebody, the people jumped on me. I was like, well, Washington hired Mike Hopkins from Syracuse. He, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't have experience, and he was a 15, 18-year assistant. I said, you never know. You might find your Mike Tomlin.
Or
right?
Pat Narduzzi, if you want to put him, if you want to go to that comparison.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You might find a guy who's so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm much more on board with that than hiring a guy like Mark Schmidt. I mean, that does nothing, I think, in the way of excitement. And the one thing about Nate Oates is why I would like that hire is maybe he could bring those 4 stars with him, or bring some of the other guys. I think that
would be exciting.
That could, and he's exciting, and he's confident, he's cocky. He's the kind of guy maybe you'd want around your program. All right, let's go out to the phone lines, and we got Lenny out in Punxsutawney. How you doing, Lenny?
Hey, pretty good, guys. How are you guys tonight?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Hey, my question here is I agree a little bit on what Paul's saying, but the man I think is right for this job and can turn this thing around and would put 7,500 people out there, at least that, is Ben Holland. I understand he might want to come back. This guy could recruit. He left to go to UCLA. Who wouldn't want to go coach there? And he's been all over the country. This guy knows talent. This guy brought Jamie Dixon here, I believe.
Yeah, you know what?
He surrounds himself with good assistants.
Lenny, I appreciate the call. Thanks for watching from Punxsy. I'm really not on board with the Ben Holland. I don't think that the second generation of guys works out well. Look at Steve Peterson. Look at Johnny Majors. Not saying Ben Holland would be that, but
the Back to the Future guy.
Yeah, I'm not on board with that. Like I said, I'd be much more on board.
This doesn't matter a ton, but it probably is part of the equation. He's going to be 62 years old. I mean, he's not young anymore.
Yeah.
He's going to be 62. He just got Mississippi State off the mat, and probably next year they'll be an NCAA tournament team. It's taken him, what, 3 seasons or something to rebuild that program.
Yeah.
He wants to leave there
and rebuild another
to come and take over a massive rebuilding job here. I would be surprised if he would be that interested in it.
Yeah, I'd be surprised too. Let's go out to Rich in Altoona. How you doing, Rich?
Good evening, gentlemen. I have a statement about Pitt and then a question about Pirates pitching.
Good.
Pitt's track record with athletic directors hasn't been too stellar either. Maybe you ought to take a look at the athletic director and think, what's going on here? Because football program was bad this year. Both basketball programs are bad. Okay, now I'll give you my Pirate question. Season starts next week. Most of the teams have their 5 starting pitchers in the rotation ready to go. Who in God's name is going to be 3, 4, and 5 for the Pirates? And I will listen to your answer.
Hey, Rich, thanks a lot. I was actually going to bring this up. The Pirates did announce who's going to be their second and third starters for that series. It's going to be Trevor Williams and Chad Cole, and then they're going to go to Tyon for the home opener. The big question is, who do they go for the second game that the Pirates have against the Twins? It could be Musgrove.
Well, Musgrove is going to be their fifth starter.
Yeah, but who do they go back to? Who do they go?
It'll
I
be
think they
whoever.
can go back to Williams.
Yeah, whoever. No, it would be Nova.
It'd be Musk. It'd be.
No, they're going to go Tyon. Then there's a day off.
Yeah, then there's a day off.
Then they're going to go Cole. I'm sorry, not Tyon. They're going to go Nova, day off.
Yes.
Then they're going to go Cole, Williams, Tyon, back to Nova.
And then
Cole,
Musgrove.
Williams, and then Musgrove will be. You know what I mean? Or whatever.
I was kind of looking
right.
at that Chicago series, too, because they might want to set it up to where you would have Nova and Tyon pitching in that Chicago series.
It's so early in the season, I don't think they'll play that kind of game. But
Musgrove's going to be the fifth starter.
Yeah, the larger part of the equation is Glasnow and Brault are going to the bullpen.
Yeah, you know what? Back to the Pitt athletic director situation. I don't blame Heather Lyke for what's going on this year. That's not her fault.
No, but she did fire the coach.
She did fire the coach, and I think a lot of people are happy with that decision.
But here's the thing. It's done. What's done is done. But this was exactly the scenario that we talked about before they fired him. To me, I think an athletic director has to look at the fact you've got a tough job right now. You've got to pay a guy an enormous amount of money to go away.
Yeah.
How about support him? You know what I mean? Maybe talk about changing his staff or doing something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And saying, all right, we're going to give you another year to try and get this thing right. Because the bottom line is, next year at this time, maybe he wins 4 or 5 games in the ACC, and his buyout goes way down. And most of these guys have been here for now 2 years. They're probably not thinking about trying to jump ship like the guys are doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might be an easier job to sell if you fire him next year.
Or, my biggest complaint, I think, with this whole thing, you knew you were going to fire him probably a month before the end of the season.
2 months. But go ahead.
Okay, 2 months. So you knew that 2 months, whatever, after that Boston College game, or no, the Louisville game, that's when they got the foul together. After that game, or whatever game you want to point to, aren't you on the phone with guys saying, would you take this job? Let's figure something out. Have a guy in place so when you fire him, that's your guy that you know is a guy that's going to take that job no matter what. They didn't have that done.
Well, that's how you would think you were going to do things if you had that long to think about it.
But again, if you thought that
what's done is done.
Yeah.
But my point is, yes, she didn't create some of the situations here, but she did create this one, and we don't know if she's going to resolve the right way until she makes the hire. Once they make the hire, then okay, we can sit and talk about what it looks like.
The one thing I want to find out, and she hasn't talked to the media yet, was it her decision to fire Stallings? Was she pressured? Was it Gallagher's decision? Whose decision was it? Or was it a mix of just everyone? Because I know the boosters aren't happy with Stallings. They wanted him
of course.
out. But is that enough pressure to make her – could she just say, hey, we're going to give it one more year? I mean, at one point, I was on the fence like you, but after that Boston College game, I thought that he needed to go. But I don't know. I think that this has just been too long a process. If they didn't know that if Danny Hurley wasn't a slam dunk hire, then they should have had other guys already lined up and talked to in place. All right, we're going to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls, some of your tweets coming up next. Stay right there.